Hello everyone, welcome to all of you in my lecture today. So today I'm going to talk about the profitability analysis, which is a small topic in plant and economics, and it's a very important topic. Every year you'll see there is two or three marks question that generally used to come from this topic. So let's start with the profitability calculation. And in the previous lecture, I have talked about if you'll go to my YouTube channel. So in plant and economics, playlist, you will see the first and the second lecture. In first lecture, I talked about the depreciation calculation, and second lecture, I have discussed about the time value of money, right? So today, I am going to talk about profitability analysis. So if we talk about the word profitability, so it reflects on the importance of calculating the profit, or you can see that that is maximizing of the profit. So the first thing that will come in your mind that this topic will tell you about the maximization of the profit. But in this chapter, the thing that we are going to see that I'll be talking about the comparison of two different alternatives and which alternative is finding out the best one. So this is what the probability is. So here in this profitability analysis, it will help the owner or the businessman in such a way that he or she can decide whether to go ahead with the project or not, and after deciding the project, which vendor to choose for the purchase of the equipment. So I mean, this kind of things that you can use in your uh, household, for household thing also. So the profitability method are not used during the operation, they are always used before the operation for the comparison purpose. So obviously, if you are going to set up the plan or if you want to buy any instrument, so you have to understand the profitability of the whole profitability thing about the instrument. Then after you can go for the buying and whatever you want to do. So these methods are not used in balance sheet, rather than they will be used in designing the stage to select the best operation alternative. So what I have talked till now is in profitability, we will be talking about not maximizing the profit. Rather than I'll be talking about that maximizing the return, right? So I'll be talking about the maximizing the return. So how these kind of, you can maximize the return. So there are various methods which is available in profitability calculation. So I'll be talking about all these methods that will include calculation of, which particular investment is better or which one is not. So first method that comes under is simple rate of return method. Second, that comes is your internal rate of return method. And third method that comes here is, or I'll tell you the third method, that is your payback period. And fourth method that comes is your capitalized cost method. And the fifth method that will come is your NPV, net present worth method. Right? So these five methods are available in profitability calculation, and I'll be talking each and every method one by one. So first, I'll start with the simple rate of return method, and you will see from out of five methods, you will see the question will be there in the examination. Either they will ask you from simple rate of return, or if they are not asking you the simple rate of return, then we'll ask about the IRR. So this method is also called as the IRR. And again, the payback period method, capitalized cost method, and net present worth method. So they will tell you which method you have to use, and according to that, the data will be given in the problem, and you can use that data and you can calculate the desired your output that will be asked in your question. So in simple rate of return method, if I am talking about simple rate of return, right? So in simple rate of return method, in which our aim is to maximize the return. So obviously, I have told you the aim of the profitability calculation is to maximize the return. So the project which gives the highest return it will be chosen as the base. So let's say if we have calculated the simple rate of return, that is also called as the rate of return. So if rate of return is more, then best project will be there. That will be your best project. So let's say we are having two project, project one, and let's say having project two. So now if I am calculating the rate of return here, rate of return is 1, and here you are calculating rate of return is 2. So if rate of return by 1 is greater than your rate of return by 2, then the project first will be better one. So these kind of questions can be asked. You have to, understand these things, and you have to remember this thing that you will calculate the rate of return for both of the project, and after calculation you can compare. So how we can calculate the rate of return? So the formula for rate of return can be written as your directly profit divided by investment. How much profit you are getting and how much you are investing, from there you can calculate the value of rate of return. Fine. So this is the formula of rate of return. But now here you can see there is a profit term which is in the denominator. So investment will be fixed. You will be knowing the investment, but the profit term is there. So I have told you what is profit. So sometimes I have discussed about different kind of profit. So I have talked about profit before tax, or sometimes it can be a taxable profit, or sometimes it can be your profit after tax, or sometimes it can be your cash flow. So all these comes under the profit calculation. So that's why, I mean, if any of these kind of profits have been given to you, then you can use all this fine formula. I mean, all this profit, and you can calculate the rate of return. So how we can use this thing? Just try to understand. But by default, if nothing is given in the problem, or I mean, nothing is given, then profit is always considered as the profit before tax, and investment is always considered as the fixed capital investment. So by default, if I'm talking about, so you will be taking profit before tax, and in case of investment, you will be taking fixed capital investment, and profit before tax will be your profit. But let's say it can be also defined as rate of return is equals to profit before tax divided by total capital investment into 100. If your profit before tax and total capital investment is given, or rate of return can be written as also profit before tax divided by fixed capital investment multiplied with 100, or a rate of return can be also written as profit after tax divided by total capital investment into 100. And again, a rate of return can be written as your profit after tax divided by fixed capital investment into 100. So why I am writing all this formula? The reason behind this one is that that depends upon the questions, right? So data in the question, if PBT is given or TCI is given, so you will be using this formula. So you can see here in this formula, ultimately you are calculating the rate of return, but that depends upon your questions, right? So I mean, what sorts of data that has been given in the question, then you will be using this data, and you will be able to calculate the rate of return, right? And one thing I have told you, that if you want to compare two projects, so the project which will give you the most I mean more rate of return, then that will be your a better project, right? So this is how the profit, these things, rate of return can be calculated. Now, the most important thing that comes under here is, by this particular method, there will be some advantage and disadvantage associated with this method. So they can ask you in MCQ question kind of things. So this method is very simple and help us in preliminary analysis. So I am not going to talk about. So this is very simple method. So here you won't require lots of calculation, and it will be used for the preliminary. So let's say you want to get some rough idea about that, let's say any kind of plant. So you will get, data for rate of return from this particular method. Now, what is disadvantage associated with this particular method. So since here you will see in the formula, so this year, this method is mostly based on the yearly basis, right, or in a yearly profit. So there are some projects that may, give lesser profit initially, but it will give you generate more profit later on. So for these projects, the rate of return will always be less, but these projects are advantageous in long term, right? So that's why this method is beneficial for only those projects which are having a shorter lifespan, mainly for 1 to 2 years, right? So this is the major disadvantage of this profit rate of return method. So some kind of project, what I've told you, some project will give you more profit at the later periods compared to your earlier period. So in that condition, you know, if you are using rate of return method, then it won't give you a good result. So it is, I mean, used for assets or project having lifespan of 1 to 2 years. So the logic behind this, I've told you that some project, will give you more profit in the later period compared to the earlier period. So in that condition, if you are using this method by profitability, then you will get a wrong answer. That's why this disadvantage, this will be the disadvantage of using this particular method. So these disadvantages can be removed easily. So obviously, you cannot use this rate of return method for the profitability calculation always. So how you can recover, get rid of this particular method? So I'll be talking about the second method, and that one is called as the your payback period or payout period method. Sometimes it is also called as payout period method, right? So, I mean, when we talk about payback time, so it is defined as the minimum length of time theoretically necessary to recover the original investment. That is your fixed capital investment. So I'll be writing the definition only here. Time required, time required to recover fixed capital investment, right? Fixed capital investment is your original capital investment. So if you want to define the definition of, or if you want to write the formula for payback payout period, so you can write it as depreciable fixed capital investment divided by average profit per year plus average depreciation per year, right? So this one is the formula for your payback period method. So here in this formula, you can see we are also again fixed capital investment is the investment which is originally invested, right? So working capital will not generally fixed capital investment will provide you for the recovery of your payback period will provide you the recovery of your fixed capital investment. That's it. So in payback time, you will see it's a very useful method in comparison of two projects. So the main assumptions here is that the cash flow for every year remains the same. So for first year, second year, third year, fourth year, cash flow will be same. That means average profit per year will be same and average depreciation per year will be same. And obviously depreciable fixed capital investment that will be included in the formula. So here I mean, because we are trying to recover the fixed capital investment. So let's say we are having a two, assets or two project. First project is having payback period time is your TP1, and second period having a payback period time TP2. So obviously you must be interested in recovering your fixed capital investment as soon as possible. So if your TP1 is less than TP2, means the project having less payback period, then that project will be better one. So your project first one first is your better one, right? So what I've told you till now, that two methods we have studied for profitability calculation. First is your, rate of return method, when rate of return of a particular project is more, than that project will be better one. And second one is payback period method, when the payback period is less, then that method will be more fruitful, or more, you can invest in that particular project, or more inclined towards the investment, right? So here you can see that payback period does not consider time value of money. So already I have discussed the time value of money concept in my previous lecture. So since payback period does not consider the time value of money, so this is major disadvantage of this particular method. So if I want to talk about disadvantage of payback period method, so the disadvantage is your does not consider time value of money. So if you are going to invest, any amount of money in any particular project, so you must be knowing about the time value of money, whether the money value of money is going to be appreciate, or it's going to depreciate. So in reality, even if the cash flow are taken same, their value each year varies. So even if you are taking the cash flow same for every year, that I have told you earlier, but due to this, no, I mean, this method does not consider time value of money. Due to this particular reason, you will see, you'll get a wrong calculation. So there you will find some, difficulty, or some kind of, irrelevant data that will come. So you will be expecting that you will be able to recover fixed capital investment in this particular time period, but you won't be able to recover. So that time you will face problem while, starting the plant first. Second thing is that, so to get rid of this particular thing, one more formula has been developed in order to understand the payback period. And the formula that is equals to, if we are assuming that present value of the asset is P, and that is annual cash flow is R by I, and the formula you must be knowing, 1 plus I whole to the power n minus 1 upon 1 plus I whole to the power n. So this formula I have discussed earlier. So while using this formula, you can say that R is your annual cash flow. So here, this n here, you can say n is your. So now you can see this particular method considered the time value of money. So here, in which the present value is same as the amount of fixed capital investment present at the initial time, right? So here you can see that value of I is your, obviously, rate of interest will be given. R is your annual cash flow, and I is interest. So N, which is there in this formula, is called as the payback period. So sometimes if interest rate is given and annual cash flow is given, then you can use this formula directly, and you will be getting the payback period from here. If your fixed capital investment depreciation is not given, but annual cash flow and present value is given, and rate of interest is given, then you use this formula, and you can calculate the payback period. So this method, earlier, the method that I have talked here is your, that does not consider time value of money, that I have written in terms of the disadvantage of this method. So I hope this things is clear to all of you, that how, when you will use this particular formula, and when you will use this formula. So this formula can be used, earlier formula, it can be used when depreciable fixed capital investment is given, and average profit per year and average depreciation per year is given. But here this formula can be used when the annual cash flow that is given and present value of the assets is given, and you can calculate the payback period by using this formula. So very, very important formula. So most of the time students used to forget, but try to remember these things, that this formula is also, this formula can be also used for the calculation of payback period. Now, third method that I'm going to talk about in profitability calculation is your capitalized cost method. So this is also a method for profitability calculation. So if I'm talking about the capitalized cost, the profitability concept is very useful for comparing the alternatives. So obviously I'm discussing this concept to understand which project is better and which project is not good. So in which project we will be investing the amount and and in which we won't be investing. So for example, let's say if a decision based on the profitability analysis is to be made as to whether stainless steel or mild steel should be used in a chemical reactor. So if you are going to make a chemical reactor and in or uh, uh, in making the chemical reactor, whether the stainless steel should be used or mild steel should be used. So one part of the chemical plant, the capitalized cost comparison would be very useful to, appropriate this particular approach. So capitalized cost method, related to the investment represents the amount of money that must be available initially to purchase the equipment and simultaneously provide sufficient fund for interest accumulation to permit perpetual displacement of the equipment. So let's say if you want to make a reactor, right? If you want to make a reactor, or you can define, I mean, you can show the reactor in this way. So I am giving you the physical essence of capitalized cost method so that when you this method can be used, you can get some idea. So let's say if you want to make this particular reactor, so now what happens, some amount of money initially it will be needed. Let's say we know amount of money that is required for this, buying of this equipment. So we note is the original cost. So if I want to talk about the capitalized cost, so some amount of money that must be there in order to, perpetual replacement of this amount, uh, this particular equipment. So let's say VS is your salvage value. Salvage value of the equipment, right? So let's say I'm assuming that service life, that is your N year, right? So now I have told you that it may be possible after 10 years or after service life, this instrument will stop working. So now that time you want to replace this instrument. So some amount of money you will be keeping, aside in so that, that time you won't require some another amount of money. So that parallelly this money will be, getting appreciated or depreciated depends upon the value of money. And based on that, during the replacement time, you will get some amount of money. So I'll be talking about the replacement cost. So replacement cost will be equals to V naught minus Vs. Fine. So when this replacement will happen, so when the service life will get ended, so here you will be getting a V naught minus Vs value, right? But what amount of money that you will be putting at n is equals to zero when this particular instrument will come into the operation? The reason is that because you will have to put some amount of money over here, right? So that here there will be V naught amount of money that you will be originally investing, and a present value of this amount will be also putting over here in order to get the replacement cost at the end of nth year over there, right? So what will be the present value of that thing? So that I'll be talking about that capitalized cost in terms of capitalized cost. So now the capitalized cost will be equals to what? That is your V naught plus that is replacement present value of replacement cost. So that is equals to V naught minus Vs divided by 1 plus I whole to the power n. V naught minus Vs divided by 1 plus I whole to the power n minus 1. Right? So fine. So this one will be your capitalized cost formula. All these the value of all these particular thing, what is V note, what is VS, all these things I have written. So the investment option which is having lower capitalized cost should be selected. So obviously you want to put less amount of money initially in order to get the replacement cost over there. So because initially you will be having a less amount during the operation of plant. So if you are having two options, let's say if you are having two assets, having capitalized cost 1 and having capitalized cost 2. So if let's say CC1 is less than CC2, If capitalized cost of equipment, if I'm talking about this one is equipment one or this one is equipment two. So what you can say that the assets having less capitalized cost will be good to invest. So you will be investing in that project where the capitalized cost will be less, right? So this one is one formula, but sometimes what happens in after the capitalized cost, sometimes they used to give a capitalized cost formula like that. So capitalized cost equals to your V naught plus V naught minus Vs divided by 1 plus I whole to the power n minus obviously R by I, sorry, plus R by I. So sometimes this kind of formula will be also used for capitalized cost. So if you will see, I think 2022 or 23, they have asked the question on this formula. So I mean, basically what they are doing. So if your equipment, you are in actually investing a V naught amount over here, and you are getting V naught minus Vs over here. But let's say yearly maintenance cost will be something, right? So this equipment requires some yearly maintenance cost every year, right? Let's say R, sorry, it will be a cash flow kind of thing. Cash will be outflow. So it should look like this one. So the money is going out. Actually, you are investing some amount of money over here. So this R amount is being invested every year for the maintenance cost. So R is your yearly operating cost, you can say, or maintenance cost. So if yearly operation cost or maintenance cost is given to you, then you can use this capitalized cost formula and you can calculate the answer, right? So this is how the capitalized cost method work. And I told you that the method or the assets or the equipment having less capitalized cost will be more fruitful to use or more beneficial compared to the another one. So this is the best method, whenever equipment needs to be purchased. So I'll suggest you. So if you are going to buy any kind of equipment, so this one is the best method in calculation of profitability. This is the best method whenever equipment needs to be purchase, because in this method you are also considering about the future thing, that is your replacement cost. So it's a very important or good method to invest, right, while doing the profitability calculation, right? So till now we have studied three concept: payback period method, rate of return method, and capitalized cost method. Now I'll be talking about the fourth method, that is your present value method or net present worth method. This is called as the NPV method, net present worth method. So, I mean, I'll be before going to talk about the concept, I'll be giving you the example. So, let's say a project create an annual cash flow of A at the end of every year, right? And suppose the capital investment initially is your, let's say I'm talking about the total capital investment for this project is your fixed capital investment plus working capital investment, right? And obviously, if you are going to invest some amount of money in a particular project, you would be expecting some amount of cash outflow. So here you are going to invest a total capital investment of TCI, and this project will be giving you an annual cash flow out, say that let's say A, annual cash flow out that you are getting in terms of revenue is AA, and this one N is your service life of the assets. So here what will happen? You will be getting VS, that is your salvage value. And again, your working capital investment, that is your working capital. So you would be expecting at the end of the service life, you know, the working capital should get recovered. So at the end of the n years, you will get a salvage value as well as the working capital, right? Obviously, you'll be getting. So for calculation of NPV, so you have to calculate the all the cash flow to be brought to time equals to zero, right? So let's say this here n is equals to your service life of the assets, right? But any cash flow, obviously the name itself says that the net present worth. So net, what is net present worth? So obviously TCI is there. So if I am talking about n equals to zero, so all these cash flows should be come to this particular point at n equals to zero. So you will be calculating the present value of all these cash flow, right? Again, the present value of the working capital investment and present value of the salvage value. So if you are able to calculate all these things, so you will be able to get this. So salvage value you will be getting, working capital investment you will be getting. So working capital investment and salvage value, it will be kind of a cash outflow, right? You are getting in terms of revenue. A is also the cash outflow, but total capital investment is your cash inflow. So obviously you will be doing your cash inflow or net present worth will be equals to what? That cash. So if I say you, tell you, so what is outflow? That is equals to total capital investment. And what is your inflow? So inflow is equals to present value of all these, annuity kind of thing, all these inflow that is you are getting. So you can calculate the present value of all these things by using present worth formula 1 plus I whole to the power n minus 1 upon I into 1 plus I whole to the power n. Again, you are calculating getting the salvage value, and the present worth of salvage value is 1 plus I whole to the power n plus your working capital investment. The present value of this one is 1 plus I whole to the power n. So this one is your inflow, this one is your outflow, fine. So now we are very much interested in calculating the net present worth, right? So the net present worth of the assets, that is equals to outflow minus inflow. Net present worth, that is equals to outflow minus your inflow. So the net present value can be calculated as A into obviously 1 plus I whole to the power n minus 1 upon I into 1 plus I whole to the power n plus your working capital investment divided by 1 plus I whole to the power n plus your salvage value, that is 1 plus I whole to the power n, and this one is your minus total capital investment. So this is how you can calculate the net present value of any particular assets, right? So I hope all these, the meaning of all these terms are clear to all of you. Now, if I'm talking about NPV at t equals to 0, NPV at t equals to 0. So what will happen? You are not going to get working capital investment. You are not going to get salvage value, right? And obviously A will be 0. So because it will be a start from 1. So the net present worth over here is equals to your minus total capital investment at the start of the period, right? So obviously the amount of money that you are going to invest it over there is, that is in terms of minus of NPV, right? Total capital investment there you have already invested, but what is the net present value? So that will be equals to minus, because that is only out outlet out cash flow that is going to be away from your pocket. So now second thing is that net present worth of project after 1 year. So let's say NPV of project after 1 year. So that is equals to what? A upon 1 plus I and minus total capital investment. Because if I am talking about if n equals to, if this one is n, so here you will be getting working capital and salvage value. And here you are investing TCI, right? Sorry. And here you are getting the working capital or salvage value as a cash outflow. And for n equals to 1 year, you will be getting a cash flow outlet is A, right? So the present value of this one is A. Initially, you won't get working capital and VS, right? So at the end of the service life, only you will be getting this thing. So NPV at the end of first year, you will be equals to only the present value of the first cash flow outlet, that is 1 plus I, and minus total capital investment, that is your fixed capital plus working capital investment at that time. Now, the thing is that we are studying the NPV method, and this is a method of profitability calculation. So definitely we will have to understand which, I mean, for if we are having two projects, let's say having NPV is one, and second project having NPV is two. So obviously, which one is better option we have to understand. So the thing is that NPV of the project which is having higher NPV will be the best one. So let's say if I'm talking about NPV of project first is greater than your NPV, sorry, project second. So in that condition, we can, get idea about that this project first is better project. So you will be investing in project first. Fine. So if in a single choice for investment is available, then net present value of project should be greater than zero. So NPV of project should be greater than zero. Then this project you you should invest in that particular project. But if NPV is less than zero, then obviously that project that does not make a sense because always you will be in the loss condition, and no one will want to live in the loss. Obviously, if you have started a plant or if you have bought an asset, so you'll be you know you will always be interested in getting some cash outflow from that particular assets, right? So this is how the NPV value of two projects can be categorized, and you can get some idea about which project is better to invest. The next method, that is the fifth and last method for the profitability calculation, and that is called as the internal rate of return method or discounted cash flow rate of return. Sometimes it is also called as. So, I mean, again, this method is very, very important. So, this will give you some clear idea about which project should be, in which project we should invest some amount of money. So, the discounted cash flow rate of return is high. So, I mean, if we are talking about the internal rate of return method, so how we can calculate the internal rate? So, first, the rate at which your NPV equals to zero. You will make NPV equals to zero, and from there, let's say your NPV we have calculated is A into, and that is 1 plus I whole to the power n minus 1 divided by I multiplied with 1 plus I whole to the power n. And again, there was a working capital investment and its present value was 1 plus I whole to the power n. There was salvage value upon 1 plus I whole to the power n and minus your total capital investment. So now what will happen? You will make these things equals to zero. And the rate of interest from here you are getting, that is your I. This is called as the internal rate of return, right? So you will be able to calculate the internal rate of return. So, or sometimes what happens, if they are asking you, or if they ask you that what is the present worth of any assets at the if the interest rate is your internal rate of return. So directly you'll have to make the option that it will be your zero, right? So this is how the internal rate of return can be calculated. So when we don't have the money, then we go for the internal rate of return, and we focus more on paying back the amount. So let's say if internal rate of return is 15%, what does it mean, right? So how you can get some good idea about calculation or which method is more beneficial to use. Let's try to understand these things. So let's say we are having three project, right? I'll be talking about with the help of three project: project first, project second, and project third. First project, second project, and third project, right? So here, let's say if internal rate of return is given as your 15%, and here if let's say internal rate of return is given as your, let's say, 30%, and here if your internal rate of return is given as your 40%, right? So now we have to understand that which project is, I mean, in which project, if you want to invest money, that will be beneficial for you, right? So here in project first, if you'll see that internal rate of return is only 50%. So, and let's say if interest rate is also given to you, right? So let's say the money is borrowed at an interest rate of 25%. So here in this question, let's say they are giving you that if the money is, it's very important concept. That's why I'm trying to let you understand. Borrowed at an interest rate of your 25%, right? So then which project will be give us profit? So this is the question that you have to understand. So here rate of return, that is R is equals to, you can see that is your 25%. But in first project, what you will see that the internal rate of return is your 15%, right? Internal rate of return is your 15%, and which is less than the interest rate at which the money is borrowed. So which means if we go for the first project, then we will be in the loss, as we will not be able to pay the entire principal and the interest. So if you if interest rate, that is your interest rate, right? So what I'll tell you, if interest rate is less than internal rate of return, if interest rate is your less than internal rate of return, then in this condition you will be in your loss condition. Loss condition. Fine. Second, here you will see that interest rate is IRR. In second case, you will be getting is a 30%. Fine. And here you will see that, sorry, that IRR is greater than interest rate. So IRR is greater than interest rate. So here you will be in your profit condition. So let's say I am talking about here is profit one, right? And if I am talking about the third case, so here in this case, internal rate of return is your 40%, fine. And the rate of return is your only 25%. So again, internal rate of return here is greater than R. So again, this will be your profit condition. So if you want to earn profit, then your internal rate of return should be greater than the money at which the rate at which you are going to borrow the money. So this one is your, let's say, profit second, because here this one is your loss condition. So I'm not going to consider the loss condition. That will be, I am just writing explicitly this one, that if the loss is there, then loss is there. That's it. But if these two project is earning profit and this one is in the loss, so if loss is there, then we don't have to invest in that particular project. But now two project is earning money and having a profit. So in first project, if internal rate of return is 30%, and in the second project, if internal rate of return is 40%, so earn profit earned in second project, I mean, sorry, this one is your third one, and this one is your profit is second one. Right, just try to understand, because I'm just assuming this one is second and this one is third project. That's why I'm just writing profit in second, profit in third, right? Not in profit. So since internal rate of return in project third is greater than internal rate of return in project second, that's why profit earned in project third is greater than profit earned in project second. So this is how you can differentiate between two particular project, while based on the internal rate of return. Because if internal rate of return is given to you, then you can also analyze that which project will be earning more amount of money and which project will be earning less amount of money, or whether the project is making money, or that whether the project is in the profit condition, or whether the project is in the loss condition, right? So this is the moral of the story. Will tell you that when the interest rate at which the money is borrowed from a loan agency is given, then the project that gives the highest internal rate is the best one. So this is why I have told you this project having internal rate of return is your 40%. So this one is your best project, and this one is your worst project. So this is also in the loss condition. So you would not be, investing money in that, right? So this is all about the profitability calculation in plant engineering economics. And the next lecture I'll be talking about the break even point. Okay. Thank you all for attending the class. And if you have not subscribed my channel, please go and do like and subscribe the video, and subscribe the channel also. Okay. So if I'll be putting any new video, you'll be getting the notification from there. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.